Inaction Man, Beach Ken, and Cabbage Patch Doll. These are the interesting times. Hello everyone, my name's Matt Johnston and welcome to The Interesting Times, a show that looks and laughs at UK politics. So, following on from Labour's bullseye hit on naming Rishi Sunak Inaction Man, the Tories were prepared to show that Labour weren't the only ones with a monopoly on toy insults and try to come up with one for the leader of the opposition. And whatever very well hidden talents this government has, coming up with clever and catchy nicknames really isn't one of them.
She echoes the hilarious gag the leader of the opposition made yesterday to attempt to insult the PM by comparing him to a popular children's figurine. I don't think that line will survive contact with the Prime Minister's work rate, but let me rise to the bait and return the serve, because I think the Labour leader is Beach Ken. Beach Ken stands for nothing, on shifting sands, in his flip-flops, staring out to sea, doing nothing constructive to stop small boats or grow the economy.
The problem with this is it isn't catchy, it's cool. Barbie's a go-to movie to see at the moment, and Ken is, well, Ken. He's Ryan Gosling. And Beach Ken is basically this. I mean, yes, that picture's an insult, but not to Starmer. And you can definitely get fun nicknames about Starmer. I mean, look at him. It's the funnest thing about him. In fact, it might be the only fun thing about him. So it's tricky to nail him down with an insult. Have you tried nailing blancmange? It doesn't really work. So all you can really do is mock him for his lack of charisma and personality, which is a bit of a problem when your own boss is simply vanilla with the flavour taken out. Who is so uninteresting, I would describe him as dull as dishwater, but thanks to the effort of these clowns, as dull as any of our water. The Invisible Man. In 20 years' time, it'll simply be a question in a pub quiz. Who is the first person to hold the highest political office in the country and was also a myth? And this is the real reason that Inaction Man as an insult works so well. No one's saying Sunak doesn't work hard. I'm sure he absolutely does. The problem is, it makes no difference. His pleasures might as well be dream wishes for all the good they do. In fact, that's what they are. Just 5 letters to Santa. Now, clearly, I'm no fan of Boris Johnson. He was a racist, homophobic misogynist. But at least he had a personality. Even Liz Truss, as incapable as she was, elicited some emotion, even if it was only pity. She may have tanked the economy, but Rishi Sunak talked it to sleep. Still, Labour had to step out the shadows at some point, and last week, Sir Keir and some of his cabinet took their first tentative steps into the sunlight and took on immigration. Start with the easy ones first, eh? This allowed the Conservatives to act in a clear and decisive manner. First time for everything, I suppose, by going after Labour's plans. First up, who else? Minister of State for Crime, Policing and Fire, and man attempting to keep his brains in, Chris Philp.
Clear to me that Keir Starmer's chaotic plan would lead to 100,000 or more immigrants being shipped over from the European Union to the UK.
Next, MP for Rosendale and Nosferatu in a suit, Jake Berry, who thought, why keep it at 100,000?
Today we learned from Sir Keir Starmer what the Labour Party's policy on immigration would be if they win the next general election. First, he wants to take the power away from Britain and give it back to the EU to determine how many asylum seekers we accept. That means the EU could tell us to take 120,000 asylum seekers a year, with Great Britain having no say.
And finally, the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. Yes, I do have to keep checking that.
His plans today seem to amount to saying that we might one day accept 100,000 EU migrants every year.
So what about the response? Firstly, Yvette Cooper.
He's talking total garbage. Unfortunately, this is Rishi Sunak just making things up because his plan isn't working. What we set out yesterday is that we would have a new security partnership with Europol, with other European countries.
Europol and agreement with European countries, which seemed to be a bit of a theme. Emily Thornberry.
with the European Union, whereby we set out all of these details so that we all work together.
If such a crucial part of Keir Starmer's plan is a returns agreement with the European Union, what happens if they don't agree to one? If they say no, your plan is kaput.
And she's quite right to roll her eyes. It's a stupid question. Labour have said they want to have an agreement with the EU and other European countries, which means negotiations. So you have a starting point for that. And the people you're negotiating with will either say, we'll think about it and get back to you, or yes, let's do that. Or that doesn't work. But here's our suggestion. They're not going to simply say no, fold their arms, push out their bottom lip and sit there sulking. They're not some spoilt brat. But all this talk of cooperation with Europe does lead to a fairly obvious question.
Perhaps there's room for closer integration between the UK and the EU. Perhaps there could be more free movement between the UK and the EU.
Well, I can see why you're putting that point to me.
Oh, can you? Good. No chance you can actually, ask yourself that question, is there? Because Brexit is now being challenged in Parliament. This is the SNP's Patrick Grady asking questions of Kemi Badenoch, and look for the point where he says, not this country.
Speaker, the ministers have spent the past hour or so in the face of overwhelmingly contrary evidence telling us that Brexit is just the most wonderfulest thing ever to have happened in the history of the entire universe. I wonder if the Secretary of State could level up with us for a minute and tell us whether there is anything at all about Brexit that she finds regrettable, disappointing or frustrating.
The fact is, we have left the EU. We are not going back into the EU, certainly not under the terms that would require us to do so. What he should be focusing on is the benefits of Brexit, such as having more control over our laws, our borders, our money.
Yes, we got control of our borders, our money, our laws, but not our marmalade, apparently, as Northern Ireland may be expected to rename jam marmalade and marmalade citrus marmalade. No, EU, bad EU, bad EU. It's jam and it's marmalade. And trust me when I say we are going to fall out over this. You don't put marmalade on scones or in a Victoria sponge, or indeed on anything. And he may look cuddly, but I'm telling you now, you try giving Paddington Bear a jam sandwich and it'll rip your face off. And that's it. No time to tell you about the old adage that pet owners start looking like their dogs, but it works the other way too. Here is a scruffy-haired bottom sniffer that should have been neutered telling us what's in his Daily Mail column.
Now, Dylan is a lovely dog, a sweet dog, and normally speaking, he wouldn't hurt a fly. But as we try to deal with the threat of other dangerous dogs, there's a lesson for us in Dylan and his behaviour, and that is, it's not the dog that's the problem, it's the owner.
No argument here. No time to talk about Richard Tice's announcement of his optimistically named Shadow Cabinet. Dr. David Ball, Belinda de Lucy, Colonel Mustard. It's like the Cluedo of cluelessness. It was Mrs. Very White with lead piping in the Conservatory Party headquarters. They are currently polling at 6%, which actually puts them behind the Reverend Greens. No time to talk about Whitstable. Whitstable, more like Shitstable. This video was taken yesterday morning and the Environment Agency had described the bathing water there as excellent, presumably using a Montgomery Burns voice. Excellent is actually the cleanest of the ratings. It goes excellent, good, sufficient and poor. So, somebody's looked at that and generally decided calling it good is too harsh. Still, with the scum rising to the top, you can see why the Conservatives consider it a good business model. No time to talk about the Daily Mail getting involved in some shady dealings. Colour me shocked. This is the news that they have been using ghostwriters for black columnists, as was brought to attention by Dominique Samuels when somebody wrote a column criticising Meghan and attached her name to it and said it was about culture, not race. She was then asked about another article which is about the Notting Hill Carnival. What could connect these two stories? And why would you want Dominique Samuels' name on it? But she said no, as it seemed too negative for her taste. Seems she has some excellent standards, as rated by the Environment Agency. As I've done before, I've left this story about Russell Brand to the last. Not a lot of comedy in it, so people can decide to skip it or not, but some important points, I feel. No time to talk about this.
When we say predator, what do you mean? I mean, perpetrator of sexual assault. Lots of people have tried to nail this person down for their alleged crimes. And this person has very good lawyers.
She's talking about Russell Brand. And Dispatches are showing a documentary years in the making which will bring evidence from multiple women of sexual assault and rape. And apparently it's a bit of an open secret. Never really understood that term. Now, I don't move in those circles, so I don't know anything about this. But it has allowed the misogynistic chapter of the conspiracy nutjobs to pile on. So, for clarification, please, we surely got past the point of dismissing a woman accusing a man of sexual assault based on what she wore or wears, or indeed how many times she chose to have consensual sex with another adult, or whether she worked at Hooters, or indeed whether people find her funny or not. As for Russell Brand, fuck this guy. And everybody that went along with the whole he's just a bit of a lad crap is Andrew Tate with a side order of Jimmy Savile. So Russell, here's another conspiracy for you. Everyone you've ever sexually assaulted have all mysteriously gone to a police station where they will give evidence, and then there's going to be this weird link to you being arrested by the police and coincidentally sent to jail by a judge for a good long stretch, where the conspiracy will come full circle and you'll learn the difference between consensual and non-consensual sex. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you are enjoying these vids, consider becoming a subscriber, a liker, a commentator, a sharer, and I'll see you all Wednesday. Take care.